So I wanted to give you a platform to speak to what you feel like has been misspoken, what you feel like has been misspoken and misrepresented. Also, to what you feel like continues to be the work that needs to be done and the work that's continuing to go on. And I want to hear from you, where you feel like the concept of Black Lives Matter exists in 2022.
Okay.
So the floor is yours.
Should I start at the beginning of the story?
That's always a good place to start.
Perfect. So August 2014, I was leaving work. I was working at a law firm at the time, actually. On my way home, I saw a tweet that said a teenager had been killed by a police officer in Canfield. I just so happened to have to drive past Canfield on the way home. So I made a right turn or, hopped off the highway, made a right, pulled into Canfield Drive, and that's where I started to see a bunch of commotion. And also police cars just flying by. And when I got out of my vehicle, I parked at the Quick Trip that was at Canfield Drive in West Florissant. And that's when I started to see people kind of gathering, whispering with one another. I walked down Canfield as far as I could get. I did see Mike Brown's body on the ground. And from there, I just knew I couldn't turn around, in the sense of turn my back to what was going on. I've been part of all types of different movements, I guess you could say, from the time I've been in elementary school all the way through my college studies, which I graduated from Howard University, and that's where I was returning to home from. So that's kind of the time period of me finishing up school, starting to get on my feet with working, starting to really be a young adult and really getting my feel for the world, and to be coming into that point of time in my life and experience such a traumatic event was very life-changing for me in many ways. So outside of Canfield, I ended up meeting up with Darren Seals and another friend of ours who has preferred to not be brought into the mix. We told everybody not to leave. We told them to stay there, take their phones out, record as much as they could record. And in the in-between time, we started to make a plan for how we were going to strategize people on the ground, because we knew this thing was going to blow further and further over. So that's what we did for those first few days, is we started mobilizing the community and getting people out on the street so that they could be present, because we knew that if we didn't have eyes on the situation, that things would be, potentially swept under the rug totally. So I remember that night we had an altercation with police in Canfield where we ended up pushing them out of the neighborhood. Canfield is a one-way in, one-way out type of setup. So whenever you have something like that, mixed in with poverty, mixed in with drug use, mixed in with a lack of resources in a community, that's an equation for terrible
Disaster.
consequence.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, we pushed them out that night. And after that moment, it's almost as though once they saw that we were united out there together, and these are day-to-day people. These are people who get up every day and they do normal things. You know what I mean? They don't want to necessarily go too far out of. Exactly. They don't want to go too far out of the way of their norm. And so to see so many people who typically close their blinds and shut their doors to what's going on outside, be present and willing to participate and speaking up on many things that have been silenced, especially in a city like St. Louis, which Ferguson is in the county of St. Louis, if people aren't aware. It was empowering for us to see. And I think it was also very threatening for those powers that be, those authorities, to see as well. And so
Right.
once we pushed them out that night, they came back and were brutal after that point. That's when we started to see the tanks and the militarized uniforms and body armor and things like that. And
Mm.
so you're taking people who've been in a box and you're putting them out there and showing them this is your opponent right here, geared up, strapped up, trucked up. And so we went and got some too. And
Right.
that's a part of the story that rarely you hear about. We defended our community too. Like we weren't just laying out there getting shot at, although that's what they tried to do. There are children out there having asthma attacks, baby strollers getting knocked over, people who came into the neighborhood who were not from the area. So we did have a lot of outsiders start to trickle in from closer drives in. And these are like the Ohio's, I'm guessing, Kansas, states where people could get to where we were in a few hours. These people would come in and they started to be agitators around night 2 and just trying to stir things up further. And that was also defended. And I vividly remember there were many instances of people being, pushed away from the whole scene because it wasn't felt that they belonged there in a sense. They're there
Right.
stirring up more drama for us to deal with later.